Bonsai, which I like to do at least once a month. And when I got to the end of it, I saved and it crashed. I panicked, rebooted my computer, couldn't find it anywhere. Searched every place imaginable, thought I'd lost it. And when I finally found it, I brought it in to edit it and realized that I hadn't even hit record on the microphone. So all the audio was missing, which means that it's a really good time right now to experiment with this concept of doing commentary on top of the live streams. And this is something I've been thinking about doing as paid content in the future because the live streams are really verbose and long. There's a lot of dead space. So this would be a way to provide value, something that's fairly easy for me, even though doing perfect commentary is really hard. You just know you're gonna mess up. I don't want to do a lot of editing with it, which is always the problem. So we'll do commentary on top of it. For now, I'm just gonna scrub over top of it and try to explain what I was doing and maybe why I was doing it. So you'll see we're on version 0.0.5. That means we're in the 5th month of new updates, and this is our 6th month we want to get to. So first thing we want to do is make sure that we're on the newest version of WordPress. I had already done this the day earlier, so the next step is to go to your plugins and see which of your plugins are outdated. This one was crazy. They all kind of hit at the same time. It felt like new versions in the same day, because I think I just checked them the day before. So running Composer Update will update a lot of those. As you'll see in here, I do a lot of my Gravity Form plugin work inside of my scripts, inside of WP command line interface. Now I'll explain that a little more when I get to Composer. Okay, so here's our Composer file. And in this section right here is usually where you'd put all of your plugins, or this is where I've done it in the past. But if I put all of Gravity Forms plugins, where I'm using pretty much maybe 4 or 5 different Gravity Forms plugins, they're pretty lightweight, so I don't see an issue with it. And the management just becomes a problem because it's a paid project. You have to have a license, which means you have to have it in a private repository. Nobody's going to really host it for you and keep it updated. And even as you'll see up here, this is my URL for the Gravity Forms CLI plugin. That's coming directly from Gravity Forms. That's their URL, and I'm able to find that. The problem is it changes pretty often, so that's not ideal, but it's easier than managing a bunch of them. So I'm able to bring Gravity Forms CLI into the project, activate it, and then from there, I can handle all the other Gravity Forms plugins. So those aren't an issue to me right now. But what I'm looking at right here is Sensei LMS certificates. And this one was actually a little tricky because I figured originally Sensei, when you activate it, it installs these add-ons with one click. So I figured that's easier than using Composer or anything like a command line. And the problem gets maintaining it. So I figured, well, we're gonna have to add another plugin to Composer. So I come into WordPress packages, wppackages.org. I find that they're hosting it. Interesting thing is, you'll see they're only hosted on version 2.0.6. And I'm actually curious now. So if I were to go there, Sensei, certificates, it's still on 2.0.6, and I don't know how often they update this project, but clearly WordPress is telling me they're on 0.7 and they're not up to date with it, so I can't use that reliably. Those error messages really bug me. I want to get them gone as quickly as possible. I have the option of doing a private hosted repository, which maintaining that is like its own project in itself. I guess I just have to live with the fact that W Packagist is like one version behind, because that makes life the easiest for now. That's what I went with. I update that in Composer. Actually, I just updated that by clicking on that manually, which you can only do in the local environment. This project won't allow you to do that in staging and production. I make sure that all of my Gravity Forms plugins are included in this script, which would be the development script. Make sure all my plugins are activated. Make sure my correct theme is activated, because I had 2 themes in here, but the new one was the one with the future, because it's the one I've been working on for the future for the past 4 to 6 weeks. What I've been working on is things that I also wanted included in Bonsai by default. So I'm able to work on their project for 4 to 6 weeks, then bring their theme in, and voila. Basically, there's a few other things, like switching logos and stuff, but it's pretty plug and play. The problem was that it wasn't pulling up in my local host, my live reloading environment. So I came into what would be under Bonsai in a theme, Bonsai resources, assets, config, and in my config.json file, here you see that it was set to the future still. So I had to change that back to bonsai.test, and then it worked. The other thing I had to do was make sure that the dates were all updated. Right here in the bottom right corner of the website, I can see it says October 31st for the end of the deal. So I come in there and I change that under, let's see, what is that under? That's in the theme under views, pages, home. No, it's not home. It's under, sorry, it's partials. Guess I'm not to that point yet. Components date. So I put it into one single component, so I didn't have to change it multiple places on the website. It's just one change. I just messed with some spacing down below. That should be reflected in the new version anyways. Just added some padding to that button down there. Then I just replaced the logo with my logo under, it's actually under views that I keep those, so it's views svg logo.php, which is just an inline code of the SVG that it allows us to bring in. And now we've got that dark logo in there. I think it looks pretty good. I think I said something about how I'll probably brighten it up a little bit. I should definitely do some cool like hover animations or something really subtle. But I think it's pretty subtle for now the way it looks, which I'm a big fan of. So down in there, FAQ in the footer, when you were open up these accordions right here, there would be these white backgrounds on the card body, but they was actually hidden. So I went in there and let's see, did I do that in the CSS or in the HTML? Okay, I added it to the dark CSS. That way, when you enable the dark mode, that'll happen automatically. Then I came in here because I noticed this on the enrollment page. This field input and this field input, they both turned white, and I'd been developing in Safari for the past week or so. So I figured that my switch back to Chrome, something might have broken it. I wasn't sure. I was looking into it, and this is the advantage of the commentary. I can say, long story short, I figured out what it was, and it was really nothing of my doing. It boils down to LastPass, which is a password management tool. And anything that LastPass was generating an icon for, it was also it was overwriting the background color. So I could probably do some little hacks that'll fix that later, but I'm gonna assume most users aren't using LastPass, so I'm not gonna worry about that for now. When I let's see, when I test it out eventually in incognito, it looks fine. All right, so there's just a couple other things that I've forgotten that I had wanted to tidy up before it went live. So I come into, it's not visible from the home page, but I come into courses. From here I can see my courses. And when I'm logged in, it looks a little different. So I see these are not dark mode right here. So I go through there, do some design on this little section for dark mode. I'm going to speed through this, but most of this CSS is located under the My Course section, under the dark mode folder. It's still pretty messy right now. I have it all under main, but I'm going to eventually separate these out into its own partials. So look under My Courses. This took a little bit of back and forth. Actually, that color's not really showing through right now. Something about the resolution of Premiere, but I made it go purple, or the secondary color. So I thought that was looking pretty good. Once again, I can see that shadow coming through here in Premiere as well, where you don't actually see that in the browser, at least not on my screens. So that's really good to know. Everything happens for a reason, right? I come into login and I see that once I'm logged in, it actually pulls up my login info right there. And it should have your avatar image if you've ever linked that to Gravatar. I think that's what it's called. It's like WordPress's profile. I don't know. So I come in here and I just wanted to round that image off. I did that by adding extend rounded circle. This is just global CSS. I didn't really know exactly where to put that because it's not exactly Sensei and it's kind of a WordPress global. So I think the next thing I'm doing is just brightening this up right here because I like how subtle it is, but it's a little bit too subtle. So I find kind of a happy medium right there. Let's see. Just looking things over. Then I decide to sync the production to staging so that we don't lose anything when we're migrating the new version of the site. Checking everything out. I pull this up and I realize that this image is like one of the brightest things on the page. That's not dark mode friendly, so I go into Wistia, I change the thumbnail. I think that looks a lot better. Let's see, I changed the courses page. What did I do on that again? I just made it so that you could see this page on courses, which is not technically built into the site yet. That'll be in the next month that I think I'll have the new courses page, which will have just like 20 times better functionality than the Sensei version or the WordPress version. I'll be covering quite a bit on that, I think, in the next month. Well, maybe even this week. I might even just do that like today. Okay, so then I just run the staging and the production scripts, and here we are in production. Everything's here. We're on version 0.0.6 now. That is a much more condensed version of what went down. Let me know what you guys think.